あの舌先がしびれる感じがたまらないんだよな。
Hi there everyone, Lars here from Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers, because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And before I dive into my review and analysis of episode 6 for the Apothecary Diaries, let me just quickly say a couple of things. First of all, thank you so much to everyone who's been commenting on our previous videos for the Apothecary Diaries. I especially like some of the theories that have been thrown out there that Jinji could be the Emperor's younger brother in disguise. I haven't seen yet enough evidence to quite prove that, but hey, that would be a really awesome twist, and I could kind of see that too. Hide your greatest ally in plain sight and make everyone think that your brother is actually someone else who's completely loyal to you. I really like that idea. So, interesting theory right there. Also, I really have to be grateful for the people who pointed out that the opening number is a song told from Jinji's perspective. It gives his character actually some interesting depth once you know that that is who is talking about Maomao right there at the very beginning. And it kind of goes on to help further cement just how enamored he is with this beautiful girl. And to address all of the comments about, no, the story actually takes place in China, thank you for the correction. I'm not going to get locked into any sort of long debate or argument about this. My sources had told me Korea, and it turns out that that was wrong. Okay, so it was wrong. We are moving on. This is a whole lot like when I got OS wrong for Murder Drones. Oh boy, at least 100 different people at least came in to laugh at me for that one. And yeah, sure, we can laugh at the mistake. We're moving on. And I forgive the people who are blaming me for culturally erasing the Chinese. That was absolutely not my intent. And I forgive you for that because you just don't yet know me. If you know me and my story, you'll know that that's absolutely what I try to avoid in my reviews, in my commentary, and that actually is one of the things that got me blacklisted as a graduate student because I didn't try to erase something. So, moving on from that. But let's get to what you're really here for. Let's talk about the Apothecary Diaries episode 6. Now, like I said, I expected things to kind of come to a head here in this episode. Namely, that the conspirators would reveal themselves in some kind of way, whether that would be through a knife in the back, someone trying to recruit Maomao to their specific scheme, and then she begins figuring it out. Poison was very high on the list, considering that this is a story about a girl who absolutely loves poison, and it is fantastic how she dreams and starts drooling about potentially devouring an entire bowl of soup filled with pufferfish venom. You go, Maomao, you do you. This is one of the reasons why she is quite clearly one of the most distinct, most individualistic, and one of the most fun heroines of this anime season. But my expectations were subverted. Instead, the plot has thickened. And that's a good thing. It is a good thing to draw out the tension, the suspension, and the mystery. We're so used to stories just delivering the big twist, the big reveal really quickly, and then moving on with the rest of the story to the next big thing. It's a good thing for us to have stories that slow us down, say slow your rolls. Let's enjoy the tension. Let's enjoy the mystery. And this episode really convolutes things by giving us tons of detail that is essential for us, that is important, and that begins to reveal just how deep the animosity and rivalries within the Rear Palace go. And again, this just helps to highlight the individuality, the autonomy, the power of these women in a situation where historically they would have been rendered powerless. And oh boy, it's so good, and I'm going to get to that with my analysis bit, but let's first hit the review. So, to review the most basic elements of this episode, so we were all on the same path, it is the day of the celebration It is cold because it seems as though they're going into late fall, and Maomao and the handmaidens that she is with, they are at least all prepared by having warming stones that they can put into their clothing's pockets in order to warm them. All the other handmaidens who are not invited to dine with the emperor, well, they are all freezing in the cold gusts of wind. And you kind of have to wonder how everyone else is doing, because it's highly unlikely that they themselves have warming stones, and there's no fires amongst all of the scribes and soldiers and officers who are just sitting there as the emperor watches women dance and whatever else is there for entertainment. So very likely a lot of people are going to be getting very cold and very sick after this particular celebration. And that's actually not uncommon within the historical record. There's a lot of pomp and circumstance for lots of different celebrations, not just in China, but all over the world. And even here in the United States of America, America lost one of its most famous presidents back in the 1800s because of pomp and circumstance, and the fact that he stayed out in the sun because it was required of him. He got heat stroke and died. But more important than people catching colds because they are sitting out in the cold breeze is instead the proxy wars that are being fought behind the very literal curtains of the celebration, where the handmaids of the four most powerful, most beloved concubines are waging various kinds of contests, arguments, and the likes to basically prove via proxy which of the four concubines is most beloved and most powerful within the rear palace. And this again just falls within this parameter of these women are just basically objects for the emperor. How do you retain your autonomy? How do you retain your individuality? You essentially have to prove that you are better than everyone else, and that you are more beautiful than everyone else, that you have more powerful, that you have more power than anyone else. And so that's part of the reason for these proxy battles. Another reason is, of course, which of the concubines could be elevated to become empress. The emperor still has not yet taken a bride, and without any sort of political marriage where another kingdom or province could offer up a suitable woman to the emperor who could be his wife, this means that the concubines right now stand in position to become the next empress. And of course, their ladies in waiting, their staff, will be elevated should they be chosen and married as empress. So that would also give them tons of freedom. That would remove them potentially from the rear palace. And wow, can you just imagine that for these ladies, what that would mean for their lives? So in many cases, they aren't just fighting out of loyalty or out of a sense of self-preservation. They're fighting for a chance to potentially be elevated if they can prove in even the smallest of ways that their concubine whom they serve is the most important one within the rear palace and could and should be chosen by the emperor. This is all really big. This is the politicking that happens behind the scenes within the emperor's palace. It's very important and should not be understated. And Maomao is thrown into all of this without really caring about what's going on here, and I love how she shuts down the bullying because she is probably the most fearsome woman in this entire compound because of her attitude, her strength of character, and the fact that she devours poison for fun. Now, as the party continues, and as various handmaidens take their place behind their concubines, the entertainment continues, we begin to transition from proxy fighting on over to what appears to be alliance forging. And that's honestly my best guess. I have not read ahead, so I don't actually know what the real meaning behind the hairpins is. And in truth, I would guess that each hairpin actually has a different meaning behind whoever is giving it. I believe it's very clear that Jinchi gave Maomao his hairpin because he's like saying, I like you, and I am letting everyone else know, because this is very clearly my hairpin, that the chief agent of the emperor is claiming this gal. Don't anyone else dare try to touch my girl. Which made Lady Gyokuyo, which I'm very sorry if I butchered her name, which made Maomao's mistress really upset that, oh man, there's someone else who is after you now, and he could take you away from me. Also, we have Lady Li Hao, who gives her hairpin to Maomao. This is her way of showing, again, great appreciation and basically accepting Maomao as part of her household. This can have massive ramifications. Should Lady Li Hao be the one to marry the emperor, Maomao could be taken away from her mistress, from the house that she's in, and elevated to the household of the empress. This is also a way of telling everyone else under Lady Li Hao's command, and actually to everyone else, do not mess with her, because I consider her my own. This is a way of showing great gratitude, of providing protection to Maomao, and also giving Maomao a chance to advance within the hierarchy of the rear palace and the palace in general. This is huge. Maomao does not realize that with the 3 pieces of jewelry that she's so far been given, that she has been granted incredible status, incredible standing, and the potential to truly rise as a woman within royal society, which makes the one hairpin that is shaped like a twig really interesting, because it goes to show how inferior the offering of this one low-ranking officer actually is. He cannot compare to the others, and yet you have a low-ranking officer along with all the other men who are going around and what seems to be forging alliances with women, and he's not necessarily looking, I think, for any one woman to try to take away to gain the favor of, like what we saw with the soldier from another province who distinguished himself on the field of battle in order to claim the princess from the emperor. I think this is really just him trying to forge alliances because he's so new within the palace, and he's like, hey, any woman who wants to like work with me, here's a hairpin, here's a hairpin. I made sure that they're as nice as they could be. That's at least what I'm getting from this one officer's introduction, and it's clear by the fact that we get to see him a couple of other times within the episode that he will be significant later on down the road. So I'm interested to see what happens right there, because Maomao is actually walking around now with 4 different options for what her future could be within the palace based on which hairpins and pieces of jewelry she has accepted from different people. So Maomao concludes her very brief business with getting hairpins. Gotta catch 'em all! Hairpins! It doesn't ring quite as well as Pokemon, so we're going to move on from that. But after Maomao's concluded her business of potentially forging alliances with various people in the rear palace, she is then called to be the poison tester for her mistress, and everyone is paying very close attention. They know that there have been strange things happening within the palace. There was seemingly an attempt on 2 of the emperor's favorite concubines. Now, of course, we realize that this was just a mistake. However, people will interpret it as something different. Maybe there really was something. Maybe the conspirators are in the crowd waiting to see their plan take effect. Well, the dishes are mixed up. The dish that was meant for Maomao's mistress instead goes to Lady Li Shu. And Lady Li Shu is actually allergic to the fish, to the mackerel that is within the dish. And instead, the poison that was meant for the young concubine goes instead to Maomao's mistress. Maomao's able to taste it. She realizes that there's indeed poison there. She fantasizes about it being a truly deadly poison, but she does her job. She doesn't indulge in seeing what would happen to her should she eat the whole thing. She goes and she purges herself. Jinji figures out what's happened, makes sure that she is truly purged of all of the toxins within her. Meanwhile, you got the stupid misters all like, I don't believe this woman, this soup is totally fine. Is just completely knocked out by what happened right there. The entire party comes to a chaotic ending because it seems as though something really bad just happened. Okay, so we found out that there was poison. There's no reason to stop the festivities. Oh, crap. One of the emperor's ministers decide to take the poison. Okay, everyone, hold on up. and things begin to get freaky. Other people begin freaking out, and it seems as though others who were in on the conspiracy right here realize that their plans completely fell apart and are trying to now scramble to come up with excuses or come up with another plan for whatever it is that they're really aiming for. And I should also mention, before I get much further in there, that right before all this goes down, Maomao learns something very important. That Lei Lishu is actually the concubine to the previous emperor, which makes her, in a weird way, the mother-in-law to one of the oldest concubines there in the palace. This is a poor girl who was married away before she could even really understand the meaning of love, given to another guy, and then now is with the son of this other guy, is still a young lady who's just now coming into puberty, is obviously falling in love for other cute, hot men who are around her, such as Jinji, and so I just feel really, really sorry for the pure concubine who quite obviously does not want to be in this situation that has imprisoned all of these other women. And it does create a very interesting power dynamic that the youngest concubine should actually be the favored concubine, and yet she isn't. Two other concubines are, and then the concubine who is the oldest, the one who has far more to lose because of her age, is stuck in a position where she isn't even being considered by anyone else. This is where things begin to get interesting. Which concubine could really be vying for power? So, while all of that's playing around in the background, Jinji makes sure that Maomao is safe from what has happened, and Maomao then requests that she speaks to concubine Lishu and to her head handmaiden, the one who is supposed to taste for poison. And there, Maomao just completely brings down the hammers, like, enough of this right here. She reveals that Lishu is allergic to various kinds of fish. She then berates the other handmaiden for saying, you should have known about this, and if you want to make sure that your precious mistress is not killed and that you are blamed for murder and then executed for it, here is a nice list of everything that your lady should not be eating. No, she is not just a picky eater. She's quite literally trying to save her life. And she says, look, I know there's just some foods that you can't eat because I myself am allergic to buckwheat. And she's like, I treat it like a poison. I thought I could beat it because you can get your body used to various poisons and develop an immunity. But when you are allergic to something, your body doesn't react the same way as it would to a poison. And so it's interesting that Maomao has this one thing that she considers to be a poison that she just can't beat. And so she's learned you have to avoid it at all costs because, well, this is a more ancient society. They don't have EpiPens or anything like that in order to save someone who is going through an allergic reaction and going into allergic shock. So Maomao has once again saved the day, saved another concubine. That's 3 for 4. She just has to save one more concubine, and then she's got the entire rear palace in her good graces. Supposedly. We'll have to see how things play on out, but still the conspiracy continues to thicken. There is a plot. Messages are being sent through chemical coloring, something that is on blank slats of wood that you don't really know what these messages are unless you burn them. They are looking for people who have rashes thanks to these chemicals, but they haven't been able to find anyone just yet. And now poison has been put into the food of the concubines. And this came directly from the emperor's chef. This is going to make the emperor very angry, and this is going to make everyone look at the chef. And very likely the chef is going to be executed, tortured, and then executed. But is that really what's going on here? Would the chef really make such a mistake? The chef be so brazen as to do this? The conspirators definitely have something going on. We don't fully know. Was this all intentional? Could this have been where the conspirators are all like, we are going to make it look like there was a botched attempt to assassinate one of the concubines in order to weaken the emperor right to his face, and then they'll get the emperor all in a tizzy. He's going to be exercising his own house. He's going to be looking for traitors amongst the main palace complex, which could then potentially leave the rear palace alone, which would then allow the conspirators to then actually do what they plan to do within the rear palace. I could see that being the interesting twist. We just don't know. But it's very clear now that there is a power dynamic between all 4 concubines, and all 4 of them have a reason to get rid of the other concubines and even to get back at the emperor for how they have been treated. And this makes it really interesting, and this is then where I'm going to proceed with my analysis. I know this video is going on a little bit long. It'll have gone on longer than the actual episode, but bear with me right here. What makes the writing for this episode so good is how, again, the tension and the mystery are extended, and not just simply extended. It's not like that there's this lingering question that has to be answered. There is indeed that. What is the conspiracy? But now more and more information is being introduced that muddies things even further, but they aren't necessarily red herrings. All of this is important. Understanding the dynamics between the different concubines, who was originally married to whom, or promised to whom, who has a baby, who doesn't, the fact that you have a young dowager empress who's also thrown into the mix. I mean, she seems like a lovely lady. She could be the one who is pruning the potential marriage candidates for her son. There is so much going on right here, and this is actually something that a good mystery does. It presents to you a core question. Who done it? Who committed the murder? Or who stole the capers? Whatever the core question is. But then it begins to throw information at you accompanied by other questions that make you wonder what is really going on here. And so you begin having all different kinds of theories. And of course, you are along for the ride with the main character who's receiving all this information, all these questions, and trying to puzzle it out with them. That is pretty good writing. And as far as the story doing what it does best, showing strong women. Again, I love the fact that you have this competition, these proxy wars behind the scenes where the women are vying for power. And it might seem really inconsequential to us and really silly and stupid. Who is the most beautiful? Who is the most wise? Who is the most popular? Who is the most powerful? Because we realize that these things are fleeting within human life. The fact of the matter is that we fight over these things, we debate over these things every single day. And as someone who has unfortunately come into the crosshairs of these particular debates, especially in younger years, in high school and even in college, these power moves by various girls, this stuff is real. And there are people like, girls aren't that smart. Whoever says that, I want you to actually go and hang out with some real women for a moment, because unfortunately these kinds of proxy wars, these kinds of petty arguments do indeed happen. And unfortunately for the people who are caught in the middle, who are used as the proxies, they are the ones who usually tend to suffer the most, as more popular, more beautiful, more intelligent ladies duke it on out. This is something that to us, we recognize how silly it is, but that doesn't remove the fact that it does occur very often. But this, in this case, right here in the Apothecary Diaries, this isn't something that we are supposed to see as petty. This is for their lives. Again, they are treated as objects. They are property to the emperor within the rear palace. If they want to reclaim identity, dignity, and potential freedom, these handmaidens must prop up their mistress as much as they can in hopes of proving to everyone else in the rear palace the superiority of their mistress, of the favored concubine whom they serve, in hopes of not just simply being recognized within the rear palace for that, but that the emperor will also take notice and could marry that concubine, elevating her to empress, which would in turn elevate her entire staff and household, these handmaidens. And that could then mean that they could actually get married to other men. They would no longer be the property of the emperor, but rather servants to the empress, and rewarded as such with opportunities, with freedom, with the chance to actually fall in love and act on that love, something that these women greatly desire. For them, doing this proxy war, all of these alliances, this competition, this tooth and nail fighting behind the curtains, this is for their very lives. This is for their identity, their freedom, their dignity. But at the same time, this is contrasted with Maomao's approach to it all, where she looks at this and is like, you don't need to act this way. This is silly. This is stupid. And as one person wrote in another comment, thank you very much for putting that in there, Maomao is the personification of it is what it is. And she's like, ladies, you are in the rear palace. And barring some miracle, we are all just property to the emperor. Stop fighting each other and debasing yourselves for a possibility that is beyond you, and instead act with personal dignity, restraint, and love. And now then, we have to also admit right here that Maomao is not playing the same political games as the other women, and it's very clear that she doesn't fully understand what is happening here. She absolutely does not, because she's not responding to these women as they're trying to let her know what is really going on here. So we can say that what Maomao is doing is playing into this higher game, but really, as far as Maomao is concerned, girls, stop acting like this. Act genuine, please. Stop fighting each other. It's stupid. You're all beautiful, so stop comparing each other. Stop comparing the concubines. And this is all just dumb. This is a festival. Let us enjoy it as the best we can. Let's eat some good food. I'm going to go chug some poison if I'm lucky. Just get over it, please. And if you are going to insist on this, she pulls out the big guns and terrifies the other ladies. Which makes Maomao such a breath of fresh air, because everything I've just said, this is very real for these women. It's very important. But Maomao shuts it down and brings us back to the more simplistic reality that we as the audience see, that this is frivolous and stupid. Just get over it already. Instead, take care of yourselves. This is one of the things that makes Maomao potentially the strongest woman within the rear palace. Not that she's the most beautiful or the most well-connected, the most popular. And on that account, can I just say, can we please bring back befreckled Maomao? I really hope that she goes back and paints that clay back on, because freckles are hot. In any case, we'll see what happens right there. But Maomao shows way more insight on a very basic, very powerful level than most of these other women. She is who she is. She is unapologetic about it, and as such, it actually puts her into a place of greater autonomy than the other women. She's not bound to their political games. She is doing her own thing. She's making the most with what she has and finding her happiness where she can. This makes her a very powerful individual, and it's actually one of the things that, when we think about it, is really what draws Jinji to her. There are plenty of other beautiful women that he could go for. Very popular women, very powerful women, even intelligent women, very talented women within the rear palace. Why go for this girl? It's because Maomao is herself. She has strength of character, and that is something that a lot of men do find very attractive. Unfortunately, also for a lot of men, they are a bunch of wet noodles and really are scared of those kinds of women as well. It's an interesting contradiction amongst us guys, that we find strong, independent ladies very attractive, and also a lot of guys are very terrified of that. Conversations to be had for another time. But again, coming back to it, this is what makes Maomao truly the hero, the protagonist of the story. Not just that we're seeing everything through her eyes and experiencing her story, but she shows her strength, her power, her freedom, her dignity by taking all of these games and breaking them over her knee and doing things her own way, reaching out to the different concubines, making friendships that are not meant to be political, but they're just genuine. She does good things because she is a good person, not because she's Miss Goody Two-Shoes. Oh no, we know that she isn't. But because at her heart, Maomao is indeed a true apothecary, someone who does care for the well-being of others and who has made that her profession and her interest, as well as consuming tons and tons of poison. And that is something that I think a lot of authors don't fully grasp, especially novice authors, that you can show that your character is indeed the protagonist, the hero, without having people heap on tons of praise saying you are so amazing, you are the hero, you're so good. Lip service only goes so far. Instead, you want to be able to show that through character actions. If you're able to do that, that communicates a whole lot more to the audience. In fact, you can add in way more nuance, way more description, way more action by showing how good, how competent, how caring, how involved your main character is, rather than just having lip service paid to that main character from the rest of the cast. And that's one of the reasons why, again, I just find this show so gripping, so well done, why I believe it really does show strong female characters at their best, and why I'm just continuously brought in episode by episode into the show and just absolutely love it. So, like I said, this analysis, this review has gone on even longer than the actual episode itself, but that's because there is indeed a whole lot to say. This episode was packed with a ton, and I haven't even scratched the surface on certain things just yet, but I really don't feel like doing an hours-long video just yet on the Apothecary Diaries, so we will end it right there. I would love to hear your guys' comments. I'm so happy for all the comments that have been given to us in our previous videos. They are really helpful, very insightful. Thank you very much. If you would like to support what we do right here, please consider liking this video, subscribing. If you haven't already subscribed, we're trying to hit 5,000 subscribers by the end of this year. The holy trifecta of 5 years of activity on YouTube, 500 videos published, which we're going to hit very soon, and 5,000 subscribers. Hallelujah. Or if you'd like to support us another way, please check out the books that we ourselves have published. Links for them are in the description below. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible adventure that we call writing, and until the next episode of the Apothecary Diaries, y'all, tschüss.